One. And we are recording with Dr. Shannon Kroner on Tuesday, July 18th, 2023 at 2:22 p.m. Eastern Time, author of I'm Unvaccinated and That's Okay. And kind of, I guess, a children's book about why some parents are choosing not to vaccinate their children and why that's okay. But Dr. Kroner, could you please introduce yourself and everybody? The link to the book is in the description, and you were just saying that Amazon's tampering with it. So could you maybe introduce yourself, and then we can jump right into that?
Okay, thanks so much for having me on,
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Shannon Kroner. And yeah, so I've written a children's book called I'm Unvaccinated, That's Okay. And your listeners can find out more about it on my website, which is drshannonkroner.com, drshannonkroner.com. And the book can be purchased on Barnes and Noble, and also on Amazon. And however, I have had so many different issues with Amazon. The book was available for pre-sale up until yesterday, and now it's live, like shipping out. Um, it's the craziest thing, but it shipped to a friend of mine who's local in Los Angeles, and she got the book. And in the flap of the book, like it must have come from someone who was packaging the book at Amazon, because when she opened the package and opened the book, inside the inner flap is a sticker with a handwritten sticker that someone wrote that says vaccines don't cause autism. So I don't know how many people are going to get books with handwritten stickers in it, but she's the first, and she's the first person I know to have actually received the book once it started shipping. So I'm happy it went to a friend of mine so that I can,
Yeah.
deal with it. And we have a lawyer. Like I brought it to the publishing company, which is Skyhorse Publishing, and then the imprint is I Can Press. So that's Del Bigtree's organization. And so I brought it to them, and they have their lawyers looking into it because, Amazon should not be tampering with the merchandise that they package. It's so bizarre. I mean, there was a lot that went on with Amazon when I first launched the book. When it was first announced, really within, I want to say 24 to 48 hours, there were already and it was only pre-sale. And I launched it on Mother's Day. Within a day or two, there were already fake books on Amazon. And I had friends order the fake books to see what would come. And it was literally someone took a screenshot of the cover of my book and filled the inside with just blank pages and shipped that. And people were ordering that. So there's a lot about, the book is controversial. And so people are doing whatever they can to, stop the messaging.
Well, as all of human history has shown, the censors are always the good guys. We know that the Nazis, that's just the way the communists, right? History has shown time and time again that the good guys censor everything and shut down dissenting voices. I thought that was an accepted fact of life. But yeah, I was about to say, I mean, regardless of like the kind of ridiculous nature of that, straight up just legally,
Oh,
that
it's totally illegal. You can't
yeah,
order something from a
yeah,
company and then because they disagree with the message, they,
yeah.
destroy it.
I suppose legally they can. I don't know anything about publishing laws. I could imagine Amazon it wouldn't be great, but I feel like it's probably in their realm of control to say we're not going to sell the book, which that's a whole other rabbit hole. But I think they could probably do that as a private company, but I don't think you can sell it. And then as you're saying with the fake books, again, that's a legal thing. And to be on Amazon, I'd imagine all the data has to be there. So you could probably get a lawyer, just go in there and find out who's doing it. But I've actually interviewed other people on here who've had books where the day it goes live, fake books surround it.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's not a new
like
thing.
book pirating. I think it's similar to like music pirating. And but that was taken care of. So I had to fill out a bunch of copyright infringement forms. I would fill it out. I think Twitter was my best tool, because I would fill out these copyright infringement forms and then take the issue to Twitter and tag Jeff Bezos, and then all the Amazon like Amazon Help, Amazon whatever, all the different Amazon handles, and say, Amazon is allowing for copyright infringement. What are you going to do about it? And so within about 24 hours, then the book would come down, and then a couple days later, a new fake book would come up. And that happened 3 times. And I kept taking it to Twitter until someone who I don't know who he or she is, but this person through Twitter contacted me and said, I have friends at Amazon and they're looking into this, and we will make sure it never happens again. And ever since then, that hasn't happened again. But so now we have a whole other issue where the people packaging the book are tampering with it. So,
that's insane though.
Yeah.
That's just psychotic. It really is. Like, so I mean, is that the opening line of the book, that vaccines cause autism?
So that's not the opening line. But the book is about a young boy who he's unvaccinated, and he shares what life is like for him, being an unvaccinated boy in today's world where there's so many pressures to get vaccinated, and why his parents chose not to vaccinate him. And so he explains that his older sibling is vaccine injured, and there are 2 pages in the book that go into what her injury is, and how vaccines, even though doctors say that, or even though the narrative is that vaccines don't cause autism, I, in a really simplistic way, explain that vaccines, here's the thing about autism. Autism is like a set of people don't just wake up and have autism. It doesn't work like that. It's not like somebody who wakes up and has a cold or the flu or something. To be diagnosed with autism, you have to have a set of behaviors that lead to the diagnosis. And those behaviors have to, or like they have to go on for a couple, it's not like a one overnight type of a thing. And so what the truth is that, yeah, okay, if somebody wants to say vaccines don't cause autism, fine, I'll give them that. But what vaccines do cause is they can and often do is cause encephalitis, which is brain swelling. And brain swelling then leads to brain damage. And brain damage then leads to the autism diagnosis, because at that point, that's when, kids have now lost speech, they've lost eye contact, they've lost, certain everyday skills. And so, the shorter version is vaccines cause autism. That's the easiest way to say it. But if, the medical society and scientists and research papers and all of these people, the media and the narrative is that vaccines don't cause autism. Well, like I said, it's not like the flu, a bug causes the flu, or if someone with the flu sneezes on you and then you get the flu. It's not like that with autism. It's actually, to be diagnosed with autism, it takes a while. Like you have to go through a bunch of steps. So yeah, I mean, vaccines, they do cause autism, but the longer way to say it is that vaccines cause encephalitis, which then leads to brain damage, which then leads to an autism diagnosis. And my book kind of explains that in a very simple way that is not aggressive, and easy to understand for any child or parent. The intention with my book was really to open lines of communication between parents and between parents and children, who, if a child has questions about why they are unvaccinated, this helps that communication between parent and child. But then it's done in such a beautifully simplistic way, and it covers all the basics of like vaccine concerns. So it covers, the little boy in the book explains that his parents are concerned with the fact that there's no liability. And what does liability mean? It means being responsible for your actions. And that, the pharmaceutical companies and the people who make the vaccines, they don't take responsibility for their actions. And so there is no liability. And that's a concern of his parents. And that another concern is the overwhelming vaccine schedule. When I was a child, it was a few shots of, a couple doses. But today, when a child is born today, by the time they turn 18, it's almost 100 doses of 17 shots. Or we could say 17 vaccines, because one of those vaccines is actually not a shot. It's a liquid that for the rotavirus, but it's almost 100 doses of 17 vaccines. And that's especially now that they've added the COVID vaccine to the recommended childhood vaccine schedule. It can even go over 100, depending on how many times people get boosters and things like that. But that's crazy that we would expect to inject and give children that much toxicity during the most important years of development. And so the book talks, briefly about that. The book also talks about like how the vaccine schedule, the vaccine plan, it's a one size fits all way of doing vaccines. So for instance, right now on the vaccine schedule, the hepatitis B shot is recommended for the first day of life. So baby's born, and then the nurses come and take the baby to go get their first hepatitis B vaccine, which is really crazy because hepatitis B, it's usually a sexually transmitted disease, or it's contracted. You get it through drugs, like sharing needles, and every woman who is pregnant is also screened for hepatitis B. So if the mom is screened for hepatitis B, and we know that the mom does not have hepatitis B, there's no reason at all for a baby, a newborn, to get the hepatitis B vaccine. No reason whatsoever. So let's say the parent decides to put that shot off for a couple years, or until now, like in California, the hepatitis B vaccine is required for entrance into 7th grade. So let's say the parents decide to put off the hepatitis B vaccine on the first day of life or the first week of life and wait until the child then goes into 7th grade. That same shot with the same dose and the same vial is the same one we would give to a 6-pound infant or a 100-pound 7th grader. It's the same one, and so the book talks about how why are vaccines one size fits all? People are different sizes, different shapes, sizes, weights, and different genetic history. So that's another thing that the book, talks about. But I've really kind of taken all the vaccine issues that are of concern and simplified it and put it into a children's book, which is really meant for, parent and child to read together. And some people may say to me, like, this is a really heavy topic for a child to be reading. But the fact is that we live in a world today where vaccines are really like thrown into our faces. It's the narrative on the media all the time, especially post-COVID, where children need the right words and the right answers to defend themselves in school and in their doctor's offices. And especially in a time where now, like, for instance, in California, children 12 years old and up can go and get certain vaccines without even a parent's consent. So children need to know the information, and they need to be able to defend themselves against the pressures of society. And so, so really that's what this book is for. It has a really great glossary. So if there is a word that they don't understand, such as let's say autism or formaldehyde, they go to the glossary, read what that is, what it means in a really easy way for anybody to understand. It's a really great first vaccine book for parents and children.
Just to play devil's advocate, it can't be that every vaccine is bad. Are there just, I mean, as someone that was born in 1990, and I guess I have whatever the normal was for, I didn't get the COVID vaccine because I didn't want it, but just, I mean, just playing devil's advocate. I mean, are they all bad? I mean,
after having done, okay, so let me just kind of tell you a little bit
by
about
by the way,
my.
I personally like don't have it. I don't care. I'm just throwing
No,
it
I
out there
know.
asking you. Yeah,
No, no, no.
this
I
isn't
mean,
me
and
attacking you and putting pamphlets in your book. Like I don't care.
I don't take it. I like this question. I think
All
it's a
right,
good question. Here's the thing. Let me tell you just a little bit about my background,
sure.
and I'll lead into answering that question. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have been working with the special needs community since 2001. I started off in my early 20s, not knowing anything about anything. And I just knew I wanted to work with kids and help them in some way. So I got a job as what's called a floor time therapist. So it's kind of like play therapy. And I was assigned different cases working with kids. Most of the time they had autism. And I didn't even really know. I had to take like a 1 week long training course of what autism is and what floor time therapy is and behavior therapy and stuff like that. And so one of the roles of my job was to go in and do an assessment and do an intake of like asking the parents, how was your pregnancy? Were there any complications? How was your labor? Were there any complications? At what point did you notice your child, not meeting certain milestones? Was your child ever able to speak? Was he or she not able to, at what point did he lose speech? Was your child ever able to make eye contact? At what point did they lose eye contact? So that was one of my roles for this job. And I would hear over and over again the same story. I had a normal, healthy pregnancy, normal, healthy labor. Child was meeting milestones for the first couple of years. And then they had a bad reaction to whatever vaccines were given at their annual visit or whatever doctor's visit it was. And it just set off all the alarms of things going wrong. Suddenly the child who was able to say a few words because they were maybe 2 years old had lost their ability to say words. And for the child who was able to get really excited when it was their birthday and open presents and understand that a present is something to be opened and there's going to be a toy inside and they get that excited, or candles on a birthday cake that they understand that they're supposed to try and blow them out. What would happen is that by the third birthday, they didn't have that anymore. And they didn't have that ability to understand that candles are meant to be blown out, that you're supposed to get excited, that you're supposed to be excited on your birthday when you have a birthday party and a birthday present, or Christmas morning type of stuff. Like these kids had that and lost that. And the parents would show me videos of like birthday parties, holiday dinners, whatever, 4th of July, things like that, where they would show me the before and after. And it was always the same story, is that my child was fine, developing fine, meeting milestones. And then after vaccines, something changed. And so here I was in my young 20s. I didn't have a child at the time. And so I took the information, but it really didn't apply to my own self. Like it didn't apply to my life. So I was just doing the job, Then in 2009, I became pregnant with my first son. And that's when I really started to wake up. Now, the waking up process to vaccines, it takes a while. It's not like, maybe for some it's an instantaneous thing. For me personally, it took a while. that whole time that I was working with kids, I really thought that it was the vaccine schedule, because sometimes kids go in and they get 5 shots at a time. And I thought that maybe it was the overwhelming amount of toxins at one time. And so when I was pregnant, my goal or idea was that I was going to do what's called like the Dr. Bob Sears schedule, which is like 2 shots at a time. Sometimes it's 1 shot at a time. And so that's kind of what I had in mind, is that that's what I was going to do for my son. Well, it was in November that I was pregnant. I was 12 weeks pregnant in November, which is flu season. And it was also 2009. So it was during, we had the swine flu epidemic, pandemic, whatever. Swine flu was all over the news. And I was told by my doctor, you need to get the swine flu shot and the flu shot. And I had enough knowledge about vaccines that I had said, I don't want the swine flu shot because the swine flu shot was too new. I didn't know anything about it. I felt there wasn't enough research, so I declined the swine flu shot. And my doctor's office accepted that. And then they said, but you really should get the flu shot. Like, if you're not going to get the swine flu shot, you at least should get the flu shot, because you don't want to get the flu while you're pregnant. And so, I was really hesitant to get it, but then they said to me that the one that they had is preservative free. So I said, well, if it's preservative free, I guess that means it's safe. So I got the flu shot in 2009, pregnant, 12 weeks pregnant. Within a few days, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was having a perfectly fine, healthy pregnancy. I woke up in the middle of the night, profusely leaking amniotic fluid. I didn't fall. There wasn't anything that pushed me or anything like that. I was sleeping. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up leaking amniotic fluid. It was as if my water broke. When I say like profusely, it was as if when someone's water breaks.
Yeah.
And so I went to the ER, and that was a horrible experience, where they actually told me that I had lost the baby. So I was devastated. And then the next day, but it gets better, the story. So they were just a horrible doctor, horrible hospital. So they told me that I lost the baby. They wouldn't go into any details with me or anything. So I went to my doctor, my OB, the next following morning, where he told me, well, we have good news and bad news. The good news is that your baby still has a strong heartbeat. The bad news is you've lost 95% of your amniotic fluid. And I said, how could this possibly happen while I'm sleeping in the middle of the night? Nothing happened. The only thing that I've done differently in the last few days was I got the flu shot. And, nobody's going to say, oh, well, that's probably what it was, because, why would they say that? They don't want to spotlight the flu shot like that. And so, that was like a whole other issue of things that I had to then go through, where the doctors were constantly telling me that, I don't have enough amniotic fluid for the baby to grow, that I really needed to end the pregnancy. And well, the thing is I really wanted a child, and I had been working in the field of special needs for quite some time. And I said, I was like, listen, if there's anybody who can have a special needs child, it would be me, because I understand special needs. And so maybe this is my life path. And so, I did not end the pregnancy, and everyone, when I say like everyone, every doctor, I went to so many different visits, like so many different opinions. Every doctor was like, you really need to end the pregnancy, that this child is not going to be able to, this child will be disfigured and not grow properly and not breathe properly and not walk properly and not be able to ever play sports. And you don't want to have a child like this. And, don't do this to a child. You have the opportunity now to end the child's life, and you can start over. It's still early. I mean, I heard it all, and I'm really stubborn. And so I kept saying no. And I went home and did my own research on how to regenerate amniotic fluid. Not a single doctor, not one doctor told me that I should do that. Not one doctor told me that my body could regenerate the amniotic fluid that I lost. So I did my own research and I found some studies that showed women who have low amniotic fluid that the way to increase their amniotic fluid was by being hydrated. So I put myself on bed rest and drank a lot of water, like all day long, drank water. And this was all happened in week 12. And by week 20, by
I'm the
week
most
20,
hydrated podcaster in the world.
I love water. I still love water.
It's yeah. And here's another one.
Yeah. Well, so
This is the
here's
ice.
mine.
Yeah, this is
There.
the ice, and these are the ones to fill up the ice water, so I don't have to get up out of my chair. God forbid I go 3 minutes without. My mom said that I've had a cup of water with me since I had like the motor skills to hold a cup.
There you go.
Yeah,
You'll never see me without like a
I
bottle of
know.
water like
I know.
this.
The worst time of the night is going to bed, and I'm like, I have to stop drinking water, or I'm gonna get up all night. It truly is. It's every night. It's like my mini pity party, and I'm like, I'm sorry. We can start drinking as soon as you wake. I'm an alcoholic, but with water. I'm like, we just one more
That's the
drink,
best kind.
just one more drink. I swear I'm fine. Yeah.
That's the best kind. It's
Yeah.
very healthy for you. So, well, water saved my son's life because, by week 20, my amniotic fluid was back to 100%. And all the doctors who had told me to end the pregnancy said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. It's a miracle," and stuff like that. And I was like, well, yeah, because I didn't listen to you. So, you know, here I was thinking that really it was like, you know, the vaccine schedule was what's bad is the 5 shots together, the 3 shots together. I mean, there's some kids who even get 7 together. Yeah, that's 100%. I would say that's going to cause damage. 7 shots together, you're guaranteed some form of vaccine damage. But I didn't think that it was just one individual shot. And going back to your question about like, are all vaccines bad? Well, I don't want to say like all vaccines are bad. However, I had one shot and it did plenty of damage. It almost cost my son his life. And that was a preservative-free flu shot. So yeah, I mean, I think that they're not, every person's body is different. We're all different. We all have a different medical history, genetic history. What may affect one person may not affect another person. And it could be that one shot that kills somebody, and it could be that one shot that doesn't. And I can tell you this, I did the first public reading of my book a few days ago, and it was filmed by the High Wire, and I invited, people to come, bring your kids, and I'm going to read this book, and it will be filmed and used for the High Wire. And this man came up to me, and he came up to me after the whole book reading was over, came up to me and he was in tears. And he said to me that his wife had recently died from the hepatitis B vaccine. It took one shot. What happened is she got the hepatitis B vaccine because she worked in a prison. And so she thought that it was, mandatory for her. She could have, I guess she could have said no to it, but she felt that it was mandatory, and she was working in a prison where I'm sure hepatitis is much more rampant in a prison. I'm sure there's a lot more hepatitis in a prison. So I could understand someone wanting to get the hepatitis B vaccine if you work in a prison. And so she got it, and it ended up paralyzing her from the neck down. And the paralysis she had paralysis for so many years until she ended up dying. And, that's her story. And it took one shot, one vaccine. So are all vaccines bad? I think that all vaccines have the potential to be dangerous. I won't say that they're all bad, because, there are people that want to get vaccinated and that's their choice. And I'm not saying that they're making a bad decision. However, I think that every vaccine has the potential to do damage and to be dangerous. So that's my long answer to your question. I think it's a good question.
No, I think that was a perfect answer. Yeah, what you said about the only thing you've done differently is you got the flu vaccine. There There, it is so odd. There's just this mental block of no one wants to question it. And I get it. I mean, it doesn't make it right, but there is the social stigma of, well, we don't want to say it's the vaccine. I'm not in any of it. It doesn't make it right, but it's, as a functioning human on this planet, we've all been subject to peer pressure in middle school, high school, college. Like, I get it. But it's just so odd that you think if anyone would have the maturity to just drop any peer pressure, it would be, and maybe this is just an infantilized view of the world, but you think it would be the doctor with the white coat that would be like, hey, we need to examine, right? You go in there and you always hear stories of someone that comes in, they're like, no, everything's fine. And the doctor's like, hey, cut the shit. Like, did you take some drugs or not? Because we need to, like, you might die, right? The doctor, there's just that sort of like, I'm not going to tell your parents. I'm not going to call the cops, right? There's that sort of like, it's just you and me. I'm here to help you. Right? They've seen it all. You can't lie to them, whatever. And, um, but then when it comes to that, there's just the eyes glaze over and you can't, and I wouldn't say it's all as sinister as, oh, they're receiving money from big pharma, even though we know that does exist. The book Pharma by Gerald Posner shows extensively that, well, no, oftentimes they are directly
They
taking.
actually, so
Yeah.
doctors get an incentive
Yeah. Yes.
to push vaccines because of from the insurance companies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no.
So
So that does
we get
exist.
payouts.
It's also not all, rainbows and butterflies. Like that also does exist. But I'm saying that that's not every single doctor everywhere. But there is
No,
just
I
that.
mean the thing is like there are doctors who we really need informed consent.
Yeah.
And that's and the ability to make a choice. And they can't just be drug pushers. They can't just be vaccine pushers, I'll tell you, I have a really good friend who ended up becoming like addicted to painkillers at a very young age because she was having, she was having like abdominal pain, and the doctors just kept giving her higher doses of, like, first it was like Vicodin, then it was Percocet, and she was only like, I don't know, 14 years old when this was going
It's
on or something. And so, here she was being given all these painkillers, and it ended up causing her to be addicted to painkillers, and she had to go to rehab and stuff like that. I mean, doctors can't, that's a serious issue that doctors just like, oh, here, mask it with this painkiller,
here's some
take this
heroin.
vaccine. Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's, we're having a huge crisis right now in America with what's it called?
Heroin, fentanyl.
Fentanyl, right? And so but yeah, I mean, the pharmaceutical industry, they are driven by money,
Yeah.
driven by profit, not driven by health, not driven by care. They don't care about, uh the well-being and health of the American people. They care about how much money is in their pockets, how much profit that they're making. Uh, you know, I don't remember which pharmaceutical company it was. I think it's Pfizer, but here Pfizer was pushing their vaccine, and then with a year later, they have like a heart problem medicine,
Yeah, no, they Pfizer and I think Moderna were both talking about, on they're going, take the vaccine, there are no adverse side effects. Completely unrelated, we're also developing an mRNA vaccine to deal with myocarditis. Like,
Yeah, I mean, but and they also came out with some kind of like a pill or something to deal with heart problems, something
yeah,
like that. And I'm just like, yeah, create the problem and then create the cure, which then creates another problem and then another problem, and then like it's just this vicious cycle that keeps on going, where it's keep putting money in their pockets, and that's really what it's about. And you know, when I think about the vaccine industry, it's really, I've actually been to the different they're called ACIP meetings, where they vote on how many vaccines to add to a schedule, if they want to put a new vaccine on the schedule. It takes place at the CDC. It used to, before the pandemic, used to go and be in person, and now they just do it online, and it's not open to the community and stuff like that. But I remember sitting there and like they would do this whole where like people could come up and voice their opinions. They had like 30 seconds to say whatever it is that they wanted to say. The people who voted on whether to add a certain vaccine to the schedule or how many doses somebody would need it or whatever, we're not listening to the people that were at the microphone. They're each person's 30 seconds. They didn't care about that. It wasn't going to change their minds. And when they would vote, it was like the science wasn't even there. I remember being there listening to them talk about, it was like Japanese encephalitis that they were adding for travel, that vaccine for travel. And it was like the percentage of people who got like Japanese encephalitis, it was like there was more of a chance to get struck by lightning than to actually and like they're like, yep, we're going to add another one to the schedule and going to make it, important for people to travel and whatever. And it's just like, and I don't know. The whole vaccine industry is so corrupt.
Yeah, and I think what we're both kind of on the same page as it is like if you want to get a vac, go for it. Like I'll never be someone to say like, no, you can't. The whole argument is just informed consent and let me decide.
Yeah, and actually that's the overall message of my book. It literally, I can tell you, like I have the book right here. The first page starts off by saying, it says, to the vaccinated, partially vaccinated, and unvaccinated, the choice should always remain your own. I'm telling you, it's about choice. And then the very last page, I kind of sum it all up again and say, the decision to vaccinate should always be a personal choice. Medical professionals, schools, and people in positions of power should never pressure anyone to vaccinate against their will. And the little boy, he talks about like some of my friends are vaccinated, some of my friends are not, and they all love me the same,
Yeah.
And so that's really the overall message of the book is that it's about vaccine choice. And what, being from California, I've lived my whole life in California. We have no choice here. Children have no choice here. They cannot go to school if they're missing one vaccine that's required. Even one dose. If they're missing a dose, they cannot go to school, private school, public school, religious school. They cannot go. And that started back in 2015 with SB 277 when our religious exemptions were removed. And then in 2019, the medical exemptions were actually removed. So if let's say for instance, there's two siblings, right? And the first sibling was vaccine injured. And the doctors know, and the parents know, and everybody knows that this child was perfectly fine and then ended up getting a vaccine and then now suffers from seizures, right? A lot of those people who experienced a vaccine injury with their first child will not vaccinate the second child because of fear of everything that they went through with the first child. They don't want to damage and hurt and injure the second child. And so a lot of second children who are siblings to vaccine injured children remain unvaccinated. And if a parent wanted to get a medical exemption for that second child so that they can go to school, it is not allowed. It is not allowed in California. Whereas in some other states, that would be allowed. But in California, we do not have medical exemptions anymore. The only time somebody can get a medical exemption is if they're like literally like on taking chemo and they want to maybe hold off on a vaccine for a few months or a year or whatever, then that child may be given a medical exemption. But it's like there's no other way to get a medical exemption in California for children in order for them to go to school. So the only choice that a child has in California for education is homeschool. That's it, or move. And I'll tell you, my kids, all of their friends have left California. They've all moved out of the state. They've moved to states like Arizona, Texas, Idaho, Georgia, Florida, where freedom is allowed when it comes to vaccines. In California, there is no vaccine freedom.
And no liability.
and no liability. Yeah, that's the other really big issue, is like they're forcing the children to get vaccinated or don't go to school. And if you get vaccinated because we forced you and you end up having seizures or brain swelling or whatever, it causes you to almost die. Oh, well, too bad for you. That sucks. Nothing we can do about it. And now you have to pay all your own medical bills for the rest of your life of taking care of that injured child. No liability.
And don't you dare talk about it on social media.
Yeah,
So
that's
we're
true
gonna
too.
force you to get it. You're
That's
screwed
true
if you get
too.
injured, and keep it to yourself. I
Yep.
mean, is that not more of like if you removed vaccines with just domestic violence?
It's
I mean,
true.
can you imagine that headline? Women, sometimes you're going to catch a fist from your husband. Dinner should have been ready. Shut your mouth. I mean, my God,
It's abusive. It's
there would
abusive
rightfully be
behavior.
riots in the street.
The vaccine in California and other states like New York, Connecticut, where vaccines are mandated, it's abusive. It's
Yeah,
100% abusive, and
insanity.
it's crazy. So yeah,
Well, the only way it's ever going to change is if people talk about it. And so that's what your book does. That's what I try to do on this podcast is the radical idea of let's at least hear it out. I'm not
you
even
know
telling people to do X, Y, or Z. Just hear it out.
that honestly, that's the most. I think the most important thing in today's world is to be open-minded, is to
Yeah.
hear exactly what you're saying, hear what the other side says, and at what point did we stop believing parents? That's the problem, is that we shut them up. We don't believe, like, society, the media, our government, has started this like trend of not believing what parents have to say about their children. And someone, when I said I did like a public reading of this book the other day, someone came up to me after and said, this book's not only good for parents and children who are unvaccinated, but it's actually a really great book for kids who are vaccinated and need to learn more compassion for their unvaccinated peers.
Hmm.
And I think that that's a really great point, because that's what this book, you know, uh sets up, is it shows people to be compassionate to the choices that they make, to be compassionate to others for the choices that they make, whether they vaccinate, don't vaccinate, or somewhere in between. um it's their choice, and we need to be compassionate and accepting of the choices of others. So
Exactly. Um, well, Dr. Kroner, I know I was gonna let you go 5 minutes ago and I haven't because I'm a terrible host. But
that's okay. It's a
guys, if
good conversation.
thank
So
you. I enjoyed it. Guys, if you want to go grab the book, it's in the description. I cannot guarantee that you'll get a book without blank pages, and I also can't guarantee that you won't get a handwritten note. That's up
well,
for
wait,
you.
hold on. So wait, the blank pages one, that's gone. So
Okay,
you
for
will
now.
definitely get, for now,
For
that's
now.
true. And if the way to know that you're getting the actual real book is, people can either get it, they can get it from Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Also there's ICANN Press. They are selling the book as well. But if you're going to get it from Amazon, it must say at the top that it's from Shannon Kroner. Like there's like a little blue hyperlink that if you click on, it goes to like my author page. And so when you buy from Amazon, make sure it has that little blue Shannon Kroner hyperlink. And then that way, you get the authentic, real, I'm unvaccinated and that's okay book. Whether or not there's a personal message in the book from someone packaging at Amazon, I cannot guarantee.
It's
So,
just consider it a fun treat. I don't
a
know.
bonus.
It's a Happy Meal toy for an adult. Just
There you go.
take it as a trophy. I don't know.
But
You
let me know. I want to hear from people. Like if people are getting damaged copies, or copies that anything written inside, or stickers or whatever, I want to know. So people And I've put that out on my Twitter as well. Like, I want people to contact me and let me know that their book, you know, if something has been tampered with the book, I want to hear about it, because, you know, if I start to see the book just came out, like it's just being shipped this last like 24 hours. So if there are more books with these like handwritten stickers or anything else in it, I'm building a case, because
Yeah,
you know, there's already a lawyer who's looking into what he can do. So
absolutely. Yeah. So guys, please comment on this video if you end up getting a botched version with a handwritten note from some psychopath who feels the need to defile a children's book. That's a healthy individual. That's a person who's doing well. I don't know. Maybe pray for that person too. Uh, Dr.
so
Kroner,
true.
thank you so much. I'll email you the link to this if you want to tweet it. And yeah, guys, if you get again, please comment if you get a less than mint condition book. And I'd love to have you on here again sometime, Dr. Kroner. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much for having me on. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Guys, thank you for watching.